The wish list. Item 15. Alfie knew Nick was properly angry when the man stopped talking entirely. They were in a stocking-dock Christmas delivery van, stopped in a high-sided single-track country lane, the hedges on either side taller even than the van, the grainy dawn light barely filtering down to them through the wood beyond, the lightening sky merely a faint suggestion through the trees. Nick was sitting in the passenger seat, staring at his mobile phone, his knuckles white around it, his brow furrowed, his whole body so clenched in fury that it exerted something like a gravitational pull, a black hole of anger demanding attention in its mute immobility. The irony was that this was entirely inevitable. They were only here because the mobile reception was bad. When Nick had discovered that Alfie had ordered a gift for his estranged friend Faye Spencer on his stocking account, he had of course immediately tried to cancel the order, but it had been too late. This had been the first irony. Because Nick had granted himself with the fastest possible delivery on the system, it had immediately dispensed his package from a different regional warehouse and it was already out for delivery. So Nick had then tried to stop the delivery, or at least mark the order as cancelled for the driver, but it was no good. The van was somewhere out in the depths of the English countryside where the 21st century had not yet reached, and there was no mobile signal. Growing increasingly exasperated, Nick had finally insisted that they go and physically stop the delivery themselves. Alfie tried to point out that the delivery would have a start on them of several hours, but Nick was not to be budged. It was the middle of the night, and if the parcel was delivered, it would just be left somewhere safe. All they had to do was get there before morning and steal the parcel back before it could be collected. This was when he had revealed that while he could control a whole global logistics system from a hideout in a warehouse attic, he couldn't drive a car. He could easily commandeer a van from the system, he just couldn't do anything with it once he had it. Alfie could, though. In theory. He had passed his test, at least, but he didn't actually own a car, and at university had not had much use for one. Driving a big stocking-dock Christmas delivery van was very much not something he was used to or good at. Nevertheless, Nick had insisted that being the person who had got him into this mess in the first place, Alfie had to drive him to intercept the package. And he had immediately regretted it. Alfie had barely managed to get the vehicle started before he stalled it for the first and, shortly after, the second time. Then he went the wrong way round one roundabout and 3 times round another, before taking entirely the wrong exit, having been flustered by Nick's increasingly furious and decreasingly comprehensible instructions. It didn't help that Nick wouldn't let him turn the sat-nav on, because that would allow the system to track the van. Instead, he had to try and interpret Nick's terse and intemperate guidance while trying to remember what all the pedals did and figure out how to dip the headlights. Fortunately, in the small hours of the morning, there was little traffic on the roads, and gradually Alfie began to get the hang of it. But by then, they were driving deep into the countryside and out of the range of the mobile phone masts. It was at this point that Alfie had pointed out it had gone 7 o'clock and the sun was coming up, and they were almost certainly going to be too late to intercept the delivery now, and Nick had completely lost it. Finally, Alfie plucked up the courage and reached past Nick's tense form to open the glove compartment. There was, as he had hoped, a road atlas in there. Someone else had experienced life without sat-nav. He found where he thought they were, and propping it up on the dashboard in front of them, drove slowly on until he found a fingerpost. Hinton, Parva and Kingstone Winslow. Left then. He drove on, edging down the dim lanes, listening to Nick's silent fury beside him. Gradually, he felt it abate. Nick looked up from his unresponsive phone, started to grunt at turnings, and finally frantically waved at Alfie, ushering him into an opening at a field gate. "Stop here," he said. "We'll go on foot." Alfie didn't see why he had to go anywhere, on foot or anywise, but he didn't quite yet dare demur. They came round a muddy corner into a little courtyard surrounded by dilapidated barns and sheds. Opposite them was a run-down farmhouse. The original house was, Alfie thought, Georgian, white, square, and symmetrical, like an illustration of a house in a children's book. There was a porch over the door, sagging under the ivy that climbed over it and up the side of the house. Inside the porch there was a little bench, and on the bench they could see the parcel with the telltale stocking-dock Christmas tick on it. "There it is," hissed Nick. "Get it!" Then immediately, "Stop!" even though Alfie hadn't yet moved, and indeed hadn't been intending to. Nick pulled Alfie back behind a half-collapsed shed as the flaking green door opened, and a woman in a fluffy dressing gown leant out and picked up a milk bottle from the doorstep. And then she noticed the package and picked that up too. She turned back inside, kicking the door shut behind her. "Too late," said Nick, and he sounded so devastated that Alfie couldn't help himself. "The milk," he said. "She came for the milk. She'll be making tea or coffee, doesn't matter. The point is, she probably won't open the parcel until she's made it. Maybe even until she's made breakfast." The moment he had spoken, he regretted it. Nick straightened up and grabbed his arm. "Come on," he said, pulling Alfie towards the house. "Still a chance." They came round a damp and mossy side alley into the back garden. It was overgrown, not like a carefully tended wild flower garden, but like an abandoned lot. The lawn was all dandelions and the borders all brambles. Nick didn't notice, though. He was trying to peer through the grimy kitchen windows without being seen. "On the table," he said. "Come on." He tried the latch of the back door. Open. The room beyond was empty, and right in front of them, on the kitchen table, was the parcel. At last. He stepped in to grab the parcel. Alfie stayed at the door, holding it open. "Nick," he said. "Look." "What?" Nick, hand on the parcel, turned to look at him. "Not me," said Alfie. "The room. Look at it. Look at this house." The kitchen around them was a disaster area. There were plates and mugs piled up in the sink, saucepans on the oven top. Every surface was covered in crockery and food packets and half-emptied carrier bags and random odds and ends. A battered old radio, a vase of dead flowers, a china figurine of a shepherdess whose lamb was missing a head. It didn't look like the show kitchen of an internet influencer. "What?" said Nick, taking it all in. "What is this?" "I could ask the same thing," said a voice behind him. And there in the doorway, in her dressing gown, stood Faye Spencer.